I'll behave myself.
Why?
Well, I was gonna say Bordalo saw some 8s, but
Whoa! I'm not sure where you were going with that, but I like it.
Hold on one sec.
Yeah. All right, let's see. There we are. Linky boy.
yeah, sorry. I'll try to manage my mute while setting up all my stat tabs and stuff. Getting bedtime sorted has been a bit rough.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm back.
I don't know that it matters, but I put the link into our little chat.
And it's 2:14, yeah?
No, it's 2:16.
Is it really?
Yes.
No, that Circling the Cup podcast number says 2:14. It lies.
It shows, God damn it, it shows 2:16 here. Fucking stupid piece of I think it's gonna just be 2:14 forever. Hold on, let me see if I can.
I just want to say the right number, that's all.
Hold on, I can change it manually.
Do you guys see my awesome 30th anniversary thank you video? So awesome.
There we go.
Oh,
that was me.
Ah,
me and one editor who's awesome also.
Well, good job on that.
Thanks. Yeah. We had a partnership that's missing that refused to participate, and I'm not going to call them out, but they think they're too good for everyone, and they've got a very big game coming out. Anyway, let's rock and roll. We ready to rock and roll, Ben? It says 2:16 now. That's pretty cool.
Oh, good. I'm glad that worked. Yeah, I don't know. I even changed in Restream. I even changed the title earlier to this time, and it still didn't take. So I don't know what the fuck
it just
Restream is doing.
That's fine.
But it did change up top left. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Stupid technology.
The YouTube 2:16. Okay, here we go. Before my voice.
I blame Ryan Warsofsky.
Ouch.
Boy, you guys are a tough crowd. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 216. And guys, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty dang happy right now with the Sharks. We're going to talk about why I'm happy and hopefully why you guys are happy. We're also going to talk about what's coming, and also we're going to talk about what happened. Wow, that's real vague, isn't it? There was a trade. It was kind of a big thing. Happened earlier than people thought. Anyways, I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
You don't get to decide whether I'm happy or not.
I certainly do, my friend. And of course, super happy, like he's coming out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but he got the chocolate factory in the end. From Sweden is Colin. That's a real stretch.
You make me sound like an anal birth.
My.
Yeah, geez. I could have gone Oompa Loompa and I didn't. Hey, guys, so
Doesn't
Sharks.
make it better.
Sharks hockey. Let's get the elephant out of the room here for this podcast. And obviously we podcast a little bit later than others. So you got to get our takes, folks. But there was a trade. There was a trade that was always going to happen. In fact, it had been rumored to be in the making for, I think several weeks, if not, months at this point. And that is Mackenzie Blackwood was flipped to the Colorado Avalanche. Now, part of that trade was Blackwood, a 5th round pick in the 2027 NHL draft, Giovanni Smith for Alexander Georgiev, Nikolai Kovalenko, and a conditional 5th round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, and a 2nd round pick in the 2026 NHL draft in the trade. So the Sharks get a goaltender who's not having the best of seasons, because none of the goaltending in Colorado is having a very good season, which is why Colorado is scrambling to pull Mackenzie Blackwood. They get Nikolai Kovalenko, a young-ish forward who has been trying to transition his game from Russia, wasn't getting a lot of playing time, because one of the problems that the Avalanche don't really have is forwards. They have plentiful there. And the Sharks get a 5th and a 2nd round pick, and all they give up is Blackwood, who they were going to be trading likely anyway by the trade deadline. Giovanni Smith, who was kind of here He's a guy you probably forget was there. And also, you can't have too many Smiths on the same roster. That's a rule. And a fifth-round pick. Now, two things I want to point out here, guys, before I kick it over to you. One, and we talked about this quite a bit. The Sharks have Askarov waiting in the wings to come up. It's very clear that they believe he's the future. It's very clear that they've told him and his management that they feel that way and that they have a plan for him. They have Vanacek and they had Mackenzie Blackwood. It was very obvious that because Vanacek and Blackwood were both UFAs by the end of the season, what was likely going to happen, or I should say definitely going to happen, is one of them was likely going to be traded. The other one may have been re-signed in the offseason as a further tandem while Askarov gets his feet under him, assuming he needs that at all, or a backup role. Mackenzie Blackwood has kind of been pretty, stable for the Sharks as far as the Sharks having a horrible defense and getting shellacked. So he's kept them in a lot of games. The Sharks said he basically outplayed his contract. They had started to sniff around a potential contract extension, and it was just going to be too much. But again, the plan was always to move one or potentially both of these guys by the deadline. Hopefully that's when you start to see Askarov a little bit more, and then they figure out what that backup or tandem situation is going to be. So not a shock that there was a Sharks trade for a goaltender. Not a shock that it was Mackenzie Blackwood of the two. Here's what gets me about this. At first, I was looking at this trade, and I was like, okay, this is just, Greer's overcomplicated way, because he loves these overcomplicated trades. I think he likes to go to the house and go, did you see how many players I moved all at the same time? Like, I get points for that, right? And I got lots of things back, right? When really, I was looking at it more like, oh, it's Mackenzie for a second. Now, obviously, since then, we've seen a couple of games with Kovalenko, and that's been kind of nice. But what gets me here is the fifths. Trading a fifth for a fifth. I get one's a conditional. Why did that need to be in the trade? It's so silly to me when you do those late trades, right? If it's a first, okay, and it's this far out, right? If you're trading a first, that means first for first, let's say, that means you clearly have someone in mind. You're worried they're not going to be there by that point. But when you start to get to like third, I would even argue second, but third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, you have no freaking clue who's going to be available in that slot until the day of. So that to me was just two guys going, oh, the fifth was already part of the trade, so I guess we got to find a way to equalize that portion of it. But otherwise, what do you guys make of the trade as a whole?
Well, wait. Let me verify something on that fifth, though, because isn't it technically trading back in the fifth round?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. It's Sharks tradition.
But
we have to trade back at some point. So he just got it out of the way.
Different years, though.
But here's exactly.
So he traded way back.
If you're
big old jump back.
But here's the other fun thing is someone was asking me about Georgiev, and they were like, is he really good? And I was like, he's had moments. He's not doing well now. Maybe he needs to change scenery or whatever. That's not really the point of the trade, though. Technically, he could wind up being what you call a ball return. And by that, I mean they traded one goalie for a draft pick, got another goalie back in, which between him and Vanacek could end up being, I don't want to call it a free draft pick, but kind of, you know what I mean? So they may end up getting 2 draft picks out of essentially the Mackenzie Blackwood trade. But yeah,
wait, who calls this a ball return?
I'm raising my hand over here.
Oh, okay.
You guys can't virtual.
Alex is very
raise.
into balls, So.
Well, no, but
just keeping it southern of the belt line.
Here's the thing. One of the things that I don't typically like to do, I don't know if you guys do this. I know a lot of fans have been doing it lately, and I'm not personally a big fan of it, is when players look back at like the family tree of a trade, like all the way back, and they go, well, actually, Hurdle was this. And it was like, no, not really at the time. Like that turned into that, to turned into that, to turned into that. But it's not like the GM had that premeditated. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a weird way to look at it. But in this situation, I think it's fair to say, there were a lot of, if you had asked me when the Sharks trade one of their goaltenders, is that the air quote start of the Askarov Shark, like the real start of the Askarov Shark era? And I would have said, yeah, he's already playing that way. The fact that they got a goalie in return means that it's not. They're going to keep Askarov, down there likely longer, and stick with the original plan they probably had, which is maybe look at him again more closely, barring an injury at the trade deadline. But because they did get a goaltender back, if that goaltender or again Vanacek plays well, then they're going to get another pick out of that. So kind of cool in that regard. I don't know, but any other thoughts on this one?
Well, we allow the second most shots against out of every team. Like we let our goalies just get littered. I feel it's a good time to check somebody out. Like Blackwood looked good in games he had no business keeping a team in. And I think it's a nice way to let a goalie like get those good looks and sort of build up the eye test value and even stats value in some cases. So yeah, I'm all for flipping our current goalies for more picks. And I have this theory that they're basically treating our entire defensive side as temporary, and they're just going to do this like full replace Askarov, Dickinson, Cagnoni. How do you say his name?
Cagnoni.
Cagnoni. Like they're just going to do this like swap out, and
right.
Like the thing that worries me is I'm not sure who's taking pucks to the face on that defensive side, because it's offensive calibers coming in, and I don't see how we're taking that shots against down.
I think
we don't have Couture, and we don't have any defenders.
Yeah, Couture, well, you could roll Couture out there in a wheelchair and just have him block shots. It's totally fine if he's not.
He'd be better than Cody Ceci.
Yeah, I mean, you do have Muka Madulin. Has just sort of popped up, right? You have Vlasic, who at some point is coming off the IR here. And I'm not necessarily saying that Vlasic's clearly not in his prime anymore. But those two guys, depending on what they do, maybe upgrades. Now, obviously, when I say depending on what they do, it means probably sending Thorun Thompson down or something to that effect. But I want to give Mackenzie Blackwood a slap on the back, because really, did he let in a bunch of like just annoyingly weak goals from time to time? Absolutely. Was he also like putting in like 50 saves a game with like no defense? Absolutely, right? Like as a goaltender, it's a numbers game. You're going to let some of that stuff in, and you're going to get fatigued there. But the last two seasons, I think he really did a lot to keep us in. And when you look at the Sharks now, what's exciting about them is they're doing exactly what we wanted them to do, which is they're playing better. They are losing, but they're losing very competitive games. And, a chunk of that this year specifically is guys like Celebrini and the shift in the offense being able to actually, put pucks in net more reliably and having fight all the way through, the game. But also it's been some of the stability that, again, Blackwood was offering, because the Sharks get blown out of a lot of games if not for him. And I would say to a lesser extent, Vanacek, who's also had several of those games, maybe a little less. My confidence in him is a little lower than it was in Blackwood, but pat in the back for what he was able to accomplish here with the defense in front of him and to get the opportunity to play for a competitor. I don't know, Ben.
Yeah, it was his birthday when he got traded.
No, the holiday inflatable song comes out, and they had to every time the Sharks do a holiday like sweater or wrap, it seems like one of the players has just been traded, and they have to make a special guest for him.
Yeah, I looked at this trade as you said, Blackwood for a second rounder, basically. The second rounder is not this year, so it's important to note that. I think that's why the fifth rounder swap happened, is Greer wanted to get something into this year's draft, so he took a fifth and gave up a fifth 2 years from now, which is just a mythical, pick anyway.
Yeah, right.
And I looked at, Kovalenko as like basically Smith, because he's maybe slightly better. Now, Kovalenko's come in and been given the opportunity to sit on the same line as Celebrini, so he has 4 points in 3 games, but 4 points over the last 2 games, and I don't think he's going to keep that up. But
no. Jumbo effect,
But I mean, still, like you put Goodrow or Cunnin on Celebrini's line, they're not getting 4 points in three games. So
yeah,
they're not making those passes that Kovalenko's making.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
He was
So
he was some of the Avs fans, by the way, were also pretty bummed to have lost, which I think if you looked at his numbers, you might scratch your head at why specifically that is. But I think to your point, Ben, yeah, you get the Celebrini / Jumbo effect there, right? Where Celebrini is the type of guy that will elevate the guys around him. That's why it's so awesome we have him. But he's speedy.
Yeah.
He's got a little grit to him.
I think honestly, the thing that has surprised me is, Colin, you just said his passing is really much better than the other dipshits that the Sharks roll out there, at least so far. So that's the thing I'm kind of watching with him is this, just luck, in the first couple of games, or can he maintain that? He does not have a track. I was just gonna say he does not have a track record of being a hell of a playmaker, except maybe one of the years he was in the KHL. So
right, and it is a different game, and so it was. I had a couple of people who are not or just starting to follow the Sharks, mostly because of Draymond pushing Macklin Celebrini in their faces, and they were asking me about, are you excited about Kovalenko? And my reaction was. He is exactly the type of player that Greer kind of keeps targeting right now, which is a relatively young player who has some potential upside. Although I would say his ceiling is lower than some of the other ones we've gone after. His floor might be higher, is the difference. But to me, I was like, we're already stocked with that, right? Like we don't seem to have problems collecting guys that, are maybe not getting enough playing time. That's been the Sharks' MO really the last 2 years with a lot of their pickups are, hey, are you like 20, 24 and under? And, and the pipeline's blocked for you? Well, we may have a more open pipeline. Now we're going to block it for you still because we like competition. That's what we say.
Well, no, the great thing is he's 25, so he gets to come in and block the other guys.
Right,
so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, 24, 25. But overall, I think this trade's fine. I know some people were coming around and going like, oh, they should have gotten I'm like, maybe teams would have been more desperate at the trade deadline technically, but like the Avs are a team that's pretty desperate right fucking now. They just they had another goalie trade right before. They basically know that if they want to get over the hump there and make it into the playoffs, they had to address their goaltending like now. So I don't know that they were any less desperate than a team would have been at the trade deadline, but I definitely am not one of those people who thinks they were going to do much better than that. Like I know some people were like, "Oh, the first," and I'm like, "You're not getting a first for Blackwood. A second's good. Maybe the other players involved could have been a little bit better, or the other draft pick, but I'm fine. That's my read.
So all right, I want to go back to Kovalenko in a minute, but what my pipe dream was that Toronto was going to have injuries on like Stolars and just need a goalie, and we were going to get Robertson back for it because like that would have been nice. But I think
that can still happen, man.
Yeah, we still have goaltenders, dude.
We've got Vanacek and Georgiev to get right by the trade deadline. Your dream could still come true, Colin.
I mean, that would be.
They're not going to face any less shots than Blackwood was facing between now and then. So
that's true, but like. I weirdly enough, because I normally don't pay attention to the PR and like the after event discussions. I thought Greer's point about how looking back on what goalies actually got a first in a trade, that was a really good thing to put out there and to get people to go and look it up and fact check him. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to get that miracle first for a maybe goalie. I think it's a good return,
I think a second is a great return.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear. It's basically a third. We need to remember because the Avs probably finish pretty high up there, right?
Yeah,
I hope so.
And also it's again that pick's going back out. It's next year's pick, so he's gonna make use of it as a throw in on some trade probably before it would even get used. So I would pump the brakes a bit on worrying too much about could you have gotten a first, because as you say, you don't get first for goalies. Blackwood's not He's
Yeah, we
fine,
don't
guys.
have
He's a
the
tough.
current
He's a tough.
goalies.
He's a tough read
Yeah.
because he's blocking a lot of shots, and he's blocking a lot of shots on a bad team, which does, in a lot of ways, make him look good. It could also be making him look better than he really is. And you're talking about a goaltender who, when we picked up, was coming off of injury and needed to get their footing back. So really, if you're the Avalanche, you're hedging a bet that he is back to form and he's good, but you don't necessarily know that for sure either, which is why they have, they made 2 goalie trades essentially there. But Ben, I agree. I think this is going to be a very active trade deadline for the Sharks. I think the pick is good. And again, my take is this was always going to be what happened. It just happened way earlier. And the mystery area was really the other part of the return, which was, Kovalenko in this case, and Smith going out in the other direction. And again, Smith is a guy who Sharks weren't really utilizing much, weren't going to utilize much. So no harm, no foul, in that movement either.
Well,
I guess for me, I'm actually surprised this trade happened at all because there'd been so much smoke, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, Blackwood's totally going to go to Colorado, guys. It's totally, that historically speaking, that has not ended up always resulting in the trade you expect. So hey, whatever.
But you know what though? This one, the difference between this one and a lot of those other ones again is the Avs were making it very public how desperate they were for goaltending. So the second they started talking about Blackwood in particular, to me, I was like, oh, there's got to be something to this one, because it makes perfect sense that if you are struggling with your goaltenders and you need to pull someone, a good team's not going to give up their goaltender. So you're kind of looking at the bottom of the barrel guys. When you look at the bottom of the barrel guys, Blackwood's doing, 40, 50 saves a night. You're like, well, that guy's probably,
I guess what I'm saying is that this made too much sense.
Right?
Like to actually, because ultimately I think what happens in situations like this is the GM on the other side recognizing that a team like Colorado is desperate, tries to get too much, and eventually somebody calls that team with a slightly better deal for a slightly worse goalie, and you end up missing out on it entirely. And honestly, that might partly explain both the complicated nature of the trade and also what moved, right?
Yeah, right.
Is that I think if Greer had tried to hold out for a first, this doesn't happen, and Denver or Colorado finds their match somewhere else. So I'd almost give Greer credit for getting what he got in that situation.
Well, Greer has so much experience with this because we had Martin Jones for a while, and that's basically what Martin Jones' career has been for the last few years.
Well, this is something worth pointing out, Colin, is that a lot of the moves that Greer has made involve players that he has direct experience with, right?
So but most GMs are like that.
Yeah, on and off. I mean, if you look at Greer's trade history in particular, he's got a lot of guys from like New Jersey, New York, like guys who he's seen play before, and he's obviously stocked the organization. Not just in terms of like the players, but also on the back end. Like you got a lot of ex-Sharks there and a lot of people that he has worked with in the past. So, they're starting to feel like there may be a little something to Greer when he kind of gives off that like I know what I'm doing, mainly because he's clearly seen a lot of these players play at not a scout level, like a personal level. Like he sees something. So he's not like he's grabbing random people here or just what I think the scouts are probably telling him, although that would hopefully be on the same page when they have these conversations.
That's super fair.
And Georgiev's one of those guys, right? Where like, I don't expect very much there, but he's dealt with him before. So,
Okay. I want to ask you guys a question about Kovalenko, but then I'll drop a conspiracy nut on Greer and his past.
Oh God.
So Kovalenko.
Yeah.
Let's say he does maintain trade deadline. Do you want to see him go for a return, or you want to see him be a Shark next season?
I think the Sharks, I'm going to jump on this one. I think the Sharks don't fully know who is going to emerge with some of their prospects. And I know a lot of fans are like penciling people in. Not every prospect pans out, guys. It's not going to work out that way. Now, the Sharks have a more exciting pool than they've had before. And I was going to point this out a little bit later, right? Because, while the current Sharks prospects are kind of fun to watch that are up at the NHL and the AHL level, you also got guys like Cam Lund is killing it right now. And Sam Dickinson is killing it right now. So you have guys that are, a league or two below that are kind of just coming up. But I think, the Sharks are still in this habit of collecting these guys who, again, could turn out to be steals for them. That tells me, one, they're actually following through with their version of competition. They are intentionally clogging the pipeline because they want people, they want the cream to rise up, right? Like that's what they're hoping occurs. Now, whether or not that's good or bad for the individual players in the system really kind of comes down to the personality and attitude, although I would argue that that's probably, again, what they want. They want to weed that out, right? Look at guys like Bordeleau who are struggling in that type of situation. It's probably not long for here. So I don't necessarily think that they pulled him in with the intent to move him, but at the same time, I do think that they are very open with a lot of those guys, because just like you're pulling them in as a let's just find out, you're probably open on the other side if the right deal comes along. So if Kovalenko comes in and he ends up being, the player that the Avs fans were hoping he would turn into, then Greer gets a good offer, I'm sure he would consider flipping it. At the same time, I don't necessarily know that Kovalenko is one that they've like earmarked. And Greer's been very clear in a lot of those interviews that like Kovalenko's a guy that they've been talking about for a long time. So I don't know that I would say he's in the crosshairs to be flipped again at the deadline. It could happen. But
like,
yeah.
consider the Thornton effect as you're talking about. Like, guys,
sure, buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. If you can do it, he'll do that. But the fact that like they were obviously hot on him for a while tells me that they're not looking to do that first.
I don't think Kovalenko goes out. I think Kovalenko, he's an RFA. I think they hold on to him. I think if they're looking to get rid of anything, I think it's becoming to me more clear that the guys at the AHL level have been told you're staying here until at least the trade deadline.
Yes.
This you're going to play here. That's it. Because otherwise, Colin Graf would be up by now. Like Graf, his 22 points in 23 games at the AHL level. He has nothing to prove at that level. And what Greer's waiting for is he's trying to maybe get value for the guys he wants to move, which would be.
And he's timing it.
I don't know which. I don't know which of the not very good replacement level players he's hoping he'll move. Because I don't think there's going to be a lot of bite for those guys. But, hey, a second rounder from next year may help get rid of Mario Ferraro. You never know. So,
well, I mean, with what they have in the pipeline, honestly, you can get away with flipping them for whatever fucking pick you get. But
you still have to have demand. Right?
Right.
I don't think anybody's looking at Barclay Goodrow and saying, I'll give you anything for that. Or Carl Grunstom.
Right.
Or, Luke Cunnin.
I bet you you can get a draft pick for Luke Cunnin. I'm not saying a high draft pick.
The seventh is a draft pick.
Yeah, right. But there you go. That's a free seventh. You package that up in something else, and then you're good. But I agree, Ben, and I've been saying this for a while, and the Sharks have been saying this for a while, that like they want to let guys ferment in the AHL or in their whatever, if they're not AHL eligible in their leagues. And they've made it pretty clear that they're aware of what they have, and they are trying to time that correctly. The other thing you have to keep in mind too is contract management, and all of that stuff does play a bit of a role, because this Sharks team can get real effing expensive real quick a couple of years down the line if it pans out. Now, hopefully by that point you're winning some cups or getting close to it.
Deep playoff. Like let's be reasonable here. All right, so here's the conspiracy nugget.
Okay.
Greer was the thing keeping the Rangers sane.
It's possible without what the Rangers are doing now. I don't know if that's a conspiracy theory.
Are you saying that Greer kept Drury locked up in his basement?
Yeah, I'm
basically?
saying Greer was the thing keeping that team from just
Like
destroying itself.
he's wheeling Drury around in that thing with the cage face.
Yeah, just keeping his phone in a locked box somewhere.
Or Greer was the one that basically showed him how to completely tank a team. Also possible.
Ooh,
Pull
I
it
don't
apart
like
for
that one
parts.
as much.
Except that the big difference there is like Drury's doing a great job of pissing off every player and personnel, and the Goodrow trade was a great example because that's not something that the way that whole thing was handled was pretty shitty, pretty shady. Don't get me wrong, I would be trying to shit Goodrow too, but that's funny.
I mean, maybe that was Greer just saying, "Hey, Goody, man. Like this place is gonna be on fire soon, and we're bros, so I'll help you out."
You know what though?
Maybe Greer set the fire.
Can I tell you what though? If I'm good, and again, NHL players are all very competitive. They want to win, and I understand that. And he knows he's towards the end of his career at this point. But dude's won some cups. You got what you needed out of this career, as far as I'm concerned. It's not the worst thing in the world to kind of come back to an area that you liked living in. Yeah, the taxes are going to screw you a little bit there on your finances, and you get to play alongside some young players that are looking like phenom players. Like, I get that he was kind of not thrilled about it, and I completely understand why. But also, it's not like he was just so close to glory. You know what I mean? Like he's already got some. I mean, he ultimately, for the type of player that he is, he's had a great career.
Goody is fine. He's got the bag. He's just trying to not make the rest of his life painful and like just having a bad time of it. Sorry, Couture. But he's not playing to go anywhere else. Especially like when you compare Goodrow's performance to like CC and Ruda, who both should be trying to play to get to somewhere else.
No. See, they're stealth tankers.
Yeah.
So CC and Ruda have gotten pulled aside by Greer and said, "Look, you suck. Play like you suck, because we still need one more good draft pick. We need Colin to win that bet against Alex that the Sharks are going to draft in the top 5."
I'm down for that.
Colin.
But this goes around to what you were talking about, right? So this is so just to loop it back around. This is the other side of it, is that like the Sharks, and I know this is hard for some people to wrap their head around. The Sharks, the players are always going to be competitive. They're not going to intentionally tank. The organization, though, in part of trying to time the youth come up is, hey, we're not really aggressively pushing for a playoff spot this year. maybe starting next year we can start looking at wild card stuff, because I do think the team has the talent to do so, especially if they start using the personnel better. But very clearly with guys like Ruda and Ferraro getting the minutes he's getting, and CC, there is no rush to get those young guys up, because the Sharks would rather get another, decent draft pick, still have a competitive enough team, and still raise the kids a little bit slowly in an environment that's going to be a little bit easier of a step up situation.
So Greer's just like walking by the team during meals and be like, "Hey, CC, Ruda, you guys see the pasta buffet over there? You guys should go get some more of that."
Well, I just
go to town, boys.
I just think that
get all the carbs.
There are a lot of fans, I think, that are looking at it, and I know we've done it from time to time, especially in game management. But like, they're like, "Why you keep rolling them out?" And it's like that is very clearly part of that plan is to continue to roll those guys out at least for another season, and then really, I think like next year is the season. I think Celebrini is accelerating a lot of things with just how good he is, and the way he's meshing with guys like Granlund and Eklund on and off, and Toffoli and Smith. But really, I think the Sharks' timetable was for us to start lifting up, the veil and really starting to move forward, was really probably more designed to be next season specifically.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that is the design.
Yeah.
It depends on if Dickinson is ready, I think. Like,
well,
that
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either.
Because Cognoni's the next guy to get plugged in. Mook Madulin's gonna. I don't know. Mook Madulin is gonna probably end up in the press box when Vlasic gets back. which is too bad because I think he's been good in his 2 games here. Also, he did the spin, right? That's a good trick.
Yeah.
So,
oh man,
I agree with Alex. I think it's at this point, given all of the factors we see, it's very clear to me that there's only 2 guys who've been given the green light to play this year. Because reasons. I mean, Celebrini obviously, and Smith the other one, and everybody else is on. Well, we'll start the rise next year. This year is let's get Colin that top 5 draft pick. So he wins. Yeah.
And do it in a more competitive way than we did last season, where hopefully morale's on the rise, right?
For sure.
And I think the big switch there, really, and it's not to knock guys like Duclair necessarily, because I know he was a player favorite, a fan favorite, but like there's much more leadership on display this season with the players that they have brought in the combination of them. And again, I think that's a huge part of the reason why you're not seeing them flame out as much. I mean, Celebrini alone, is that kid does not like losing. He will not give up at all. Smith is the same way. Smith is, there's obviously a bit of a skill gap there, which is to be expected. But Smith, is good and is going to come into his own. And I think, Ben, to your point, Celebrini was obviously plugged in right away because that kid was just straight ready. I think when it comes to Smith, the hope was that he was ready. The reality is he's pretty much ready. Like, he's not really AHL. I don't think he's AHL talent.
He's a 19-year-old on a 0.5 point per game pace.
Yeah.
We just need to live with the struggles as he learns the defensive game.
Yeah,
that's still extraordinary. The problem is that we look at Celebrini.
Yeah, right. It's a comparison, but also, again, like we talked about the last podcast, the Sharks have started to utilize him a little wiser and put him in better situations to succeed and try to force it.
I love Wenberg as his center. I love that.
Yeah,
actually, because Wenberg, I think, has basically been one of the best pickups the Sharks have made.
Yeah.
Against all odds. And Smith shouldn't be centering. So those 2 things together
works
thank
nicely.
God. Thank God we're finally here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's also give Eklund his flowers, because God damn is that guy good. And like he's stealthy good. Like every time you look for him to be where he needs to be, he's there, and he's not getting muscled off the puck like he did in the first look. And like
it
blows my mind. He's 200 foot great player.
The only knock against Eklund right now, and this is not my opinion, but it's very clear the Sharks, because they keep saying it, is that they're still looking for him to be a bit more consistent than he is. But I agree, on the ice, skating, controlling the play, not getting muscled off the puck, he looks great. And when you pair him with the right guys, he's amazing. When you pair him with not the right guys, he's still pretty good. He's only going to continue to get better. Yeah. So, if he can get whatever consistency that they're looking for from him to be stronger there, then, again, Sharks are in a good spot. And that's the other thing I want to talk about this podcast, guys, was the spot that the Sharks are in, because when you look down the pipeline, when you look at the AHL, guys like Cardwell are playing well. Cardwell's played well when he's come up. I feel like you got guys like Graf. There are, Askarov, obviously. There are guys in the AHL to be excited about. And then again, guys, Dickinson's just killing it right now. Doesn't really belong in the league he's in. He's just, his age and contract eligibility, not quite NHL according to the Sharks, and also not a race to get him up there. And again, Lund is in the Hobie Baker race right now.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
And that's just 2 guys. Like, they have other prospects who are also doing well in their respective leagues. So, other than Musty getting hurt and that kind of in the whole trade situation on his end and getting derailed, like, the future is really bright for this team. And that's saying that, again, pointing out that not all these guys are going to pan out, but the Sharks have enough to be in a really good spot. And, cap situation wise, and, at the end of this year, next year, they're going to wide open to make filler where they, think that they'll need, to fill in the spots. They have to manage that well, obviously. But
sure,
they went from being in a horrible position with very little future outlook to really positive future outlook, like near future outlook, very quickly, which again, I know we've done a lot of criticism career for various things. And I'm not saying that isn't warranted, but slap on the back for him because,
Well,
there's luck in there with Celebrini
yeah,
getting pickup. Makes a big difference.
Because the thing is, let's be totally honest here. This is a shitty team without Celebrini.
Yeah.
It is, but the prospect pool is still better and would still be trending positive.
True.
Even without Celebrini.
I agree, but I think,
But next year would not be the year. It would be like,
this year wouldn't be as entertaining.
No,
Like,
I mean,
so remember, Alex, you've said this basically since the beginning of the season. I've been sort of hyping it when we looked at, the draft. Celebrini is actually a generational player.
Yes.
Like he's actually possibly fucking Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby. He's in. Oh my god! Like I cannot believe how good and instinctively strong he is defensively at 18 years old, and he's got 20 points in 21 games.
Yeah,
and he missed 10 games.
Our Lord and Savior is here, you guys.
Yeah, and this is the smallest he's going. This is the smallest and weakest he's going to be.
Yeah,
like it's nuts. And like the thing that terrifies me on some of our prospects, or specifically our defensive prospects, we have no right-handed defenders coming up. Like Ceci and Ruda might actually be here next season.
Oh God, stop that.
Yeah, don't do that, Colin. What are you doing?
Like it's the mythical right-handed defender, man. Like, and Lil Jagrin,
you're right.
which
that is a problem. You're right.
Yeah. It's like that's the only thing that really bums me out when I think about the turn that we're all expecting next season is we don't have any righties.
Well, here's the secret. Here's a secret. It's a dirty secret. Some people don't realize this. Most right-handed NHL players play left-handed, and a lot of that comes down to where you were brought up. So what you're really saying, Colin, is that they need to find more specifically American defensemen. Those are the ones that are righties traditionally. Otherwise, if you're righty up in Canada, you usually shoot left. And same with Sweden and Finland and Europe and all that kind of stuff. So maybe the scouts ought to be looking around here more. It's not a guarantee or anything, but it is I guess it's a fun fact if you didn't know that. And if you're wondering why that is, by the way, it's because when you are stick handling, your lower hand is really meant to be more of a fulcrum, and it's your top hand that is doing most of the control. Same with the wrist shot, goes the same way. Slap shot, not so much. And so if you think about shoveling snow, which is the areas that a lot of these kids grow up in, if I throw you a shovel to shovel snow, you are instinctively, if you're a right-handed person, you are you may be using the right hand differently on that shovel than you think you would. And so there have been a lot of players who have talked about the transition from right to left, players who grew up in the States specifically. Can't remember who. I was just reading an article about this. Super fascinating. But, who were raised to be right-handed shots and realized that their stick handling wasn't very good, couldn't figure out why, and then were taught to try to, switch their stick, were able to make the transition and realize that they were getting much more control and strength by having the right hand up top to kind of go. So, Anyway, was there anything else in the podcast that you guys wanted to talk about specifically that has happened over the last couple of weeks?
I mean, the Utah game that just happened.
Well, let's go game by game then, and we'll zip through them.
That's okay, that's a ton of games.
Well,
we can skip the Florida game.
We're just going to go. We're just going to go through the week, right? So, Sharks end up losing to the Carolina Hurricanes. They had 2 goals from Luke Cunnin, who, by the way, I swear to God, this month has made a deal with the devil to ensure that he gets at least 1 breakaway a game. Now, he doesn't use the breakaway to do anything, but he gets them, and it's always like, Luke Cunnin on the breakaway, what is going on?
And he misses the net.
Yes, exactly. Or shoots it directly into the goalie. One of the two.
Luke Cunnin, the guy who doesn't back check.
Yeah, but he gets a breakaway, so there you go. Then the Sharks took on the St. Louis Blues. Boy, this was a barn burner. Celebrini was on a hat trick watcher for a while. He got 3 points. Sharks end up winning this one 4-3. It got very tight towards the end of the game. We had goals from Tyler Toffoli, 2 goals from Macklin Celebrini, and then of course Jake Wallman, who, heart love Jake Wallman.
Oh, I love that guy.
Love that guy.
Detroit, you fucking idiots.
Yeah. And then that takes us to the game that Colin apparently wants to talk about, which is the Utah Hockey Club. Just name your effing team
God,
already.
I hate that name, by the
I
way.
do too. Well, it's not going to be a permanent name, it sounds like. There's more and more stuff indicating it's not. The Sharks lose this one 4-3. Now, one thing I do want to point out before I turn it over to you, Colin. 1 point game. 1 point game.
Yeah.
1 point game.
Yeah.
And again, last season, this is let me tell you what the scores are last season. Ready? 3-0 Hurricanes. 4-1 the other way Blues. And 4-1 or 4-0 Utah. Yeah, right. Like, so again, losing but competitive, and you're getting what you want. Colin, what do you want to talk about with this game specifically?
Like,
Wenberg, Granlund, and Zetterlund were the Sharks that scored in this game. Sorry.
Yeah. Like every player who comes into the NHL gets their welcome to the NHL moment. Sometimes it's fuck face on, fuck this guy, hitting your star player on the knee and ending his first season. But like, I feel this Utah game was Celebrini's like welcome to the league, like heart check, gut check, whatever you want to call it. And I feel he passed. Like, he took blatant bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, fuck the rest, blatant bullshit. Got right back into it to the point where I was just like, woof. I was like, hey, Wars, goalie, coach, get him off.
He did get lucky, right? Like, so he gets pushed into the boards. That's concussion city, except he's lucky he has his hands up, right?
Yeah, but
he gets speared in the junk off of a face-off, and everyone's like, oh God, he got tangled with the refs. No, he got speared in the junk and went down, guys. It's the ref whose knee you need to worry about there. He got up smiling from a scrum.
Yeah, okay.
Which I fucking love.
But here's the thing. Like, the nasty hit, the spear, like in each of those cases, he seemed to do the best thing possible he could have done to not get himself fucked. And the scrum to me is what made it, because he went against Cooley or whoever, and he went against a bigger person, and you can see as he's wrestling, he's making sure he doesn't go underneath. He's making sure that he's on top when they go down.
He's a top, you say?
I mean, who knows? But that's a teenage boy you're talking about, buddy.
He took a puck to the mouth a couple of games earlier, and he came right back in and was ready to go, and like it was no thing.
Actually, no, it wasn't a puck. I think he got high stick, didn't he? And he right in the nose, or
was it a puck?
I don't know. It
was in the mouth. He got the cut on the side of his mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. He also got high sticked in the nose and bled like.
Yeah.
Like
he's a bleeder. He's a bleeder. Yeah, he's a bleeder. It's very clear he's a bleeder. But
he's smart. He's smart in all, even the shit situations, even the 7 out of 10 guys are going to have to get taken off the ice in this situation. He just seems to have that sense, that IQ.
Can you knock on every piece of fucking wood within a 5 square mile radius of you, Colin?
Sure, man.
Jesus.
I'm just saying.
Here's the thing.
The guy has a
great
sense of every aspect of the sport.
Here's what it really is to me.
It's true.
What it is to me is he moves on immediately. He does not linger on stuff. So if you do something, like again, gets hit in the puck with a mouth, is bleeding, he's not sitting there at all. You look at his face, for the rest of that game, that guy, that puck hit him in the face 4 months ago, as far as he's concerned. Like, he's focused on what needs to happen immediately. And I think that's one of the big differences between him and a lot of the players that we've had in the roster the last couple of years, even some of the veterans, is that, they will get rattled and that is it. Something happens, it's negative, he's on to the next. And that's where his drive comes into play. And if he's able, and he has been so far, and I'm sure other players like Toffoli are also helping with this, and Granlund as well, but if he's able to have that bleed out and really just affect the other players around him, that's the level of leadership that the Sharks have not had in a very long time, and arguably never totally to this degree. And I'm saying that as like Pavs is a guy that had a lot of fight. Like, they had an era where they did have leaders that would have a lot of fight. But this is very different.
I think Pavs is still the ideal of leadership
Yep.
in that he also didn't. I mean, that guy took a beating every game in the crease, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
He played a different game than we want Celebrini to.
Yeah.
This is a great observation you make there, Alex, because I hadn't really put this together yet. You're right. He's just like a goldfish. Like the last shift didn't happen. He doesn't care. It's like, I'm going to do something on this shift. Let's go.
Yeah.
And
He
you
wants
can
to make
see
a
it.
difference every play. Every
It's-
play.
And that idea that, a guy, a similar, somebody who took these similar setbacks, is maybe not that as focused as this guy is.
No, well,
It is
well,
kind of
well, and
interesting.
let's use the immediate comparison, right? And I'm not trying to pick on Will Smith, but Will Smith is very competitive, and I think he tries to do his best on every shift. And again, I think he's going to be a great player, but I do think like that's a slight differentiator in terms of where they are in their skill at this point in time. Where again, in the very beginning, you could see there was like hesitation there on a lot of plays. Whereas from Celebrini's perspective, it was just like, to your point, Ben, I agree that Pavs in the past has been the ideal leader. I think what we got now with Celebrini is a guy with Pavs and maybe higher leadership, ceiling,
Right.
with the skill of like a Gretzky.
Yeah.
Well,
he's like the anti-Marlowe, is what you're saying.
Well,
hey now.
So here's the thing: behind the scenes, like so, everything I've ever read, with the exception of Jeremy Roenick, points to behind the scenes. Guys like Jumbo and Marlowe really displaying extremely strong leadership. But I think the difference is Celebrini is not going to allow himself to ever have a quiet game. I just don't see it.
I think to be fair to Marlowe, I think Marlowe had the goldfish thing.
Yeah,
I do. He doesn't have the same skill level as Celebrini does.
He's just not a fired up type of personality,
and he's not the verbal guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if Celebrini is yet either. I haven't really seen that side on the ice, but he's 18. He doesn't need to be.
Yeah, him chirping at the rest though is great, but like, here's the thing I think Celebrini has that Thornton I feel Thornton kind of lost this past.
Thornton did not have the goldfish thing.
No. Thornton didn't have the goldfish thing, but like Celebrini has fun. Like he's having fun out there when he.
I mean, so did Jumbo though.
Yeah, I think.
But I think Jumbo's fun kind of fell off after like 2012. Like,
I don't get that sense at all. I feel like that guy is nothing but fun, and maybe
no. I think he's still jokey and still like haha, but like the way he played, like I didn't see Jumbo playing with joy through like the 2010s. That dude was like going to work.
Well,
and then
would
he'd
also
be joking
say
on the bench.
You're talking about the years that were real heartbreakers for the Sharks.
Yeah, but that's sort of my point.
And that's no, I'm with you. He felt those losses. He felt the reverse sweep in LA. If you remember, like him on the bench,
we all felt that shit.
It was right. Like you could see that Jumbo was just like, this is fucked up. I'm never going to win a cup.
But like, okay, but let's go back even further in comparisons here. Let's compare Celebrini to Sid. Like Crosby, Sid the Kid, right? Like I hate it. It's hard for me to say this at this point, but I really like Crosby in his like elder statesman period of his career. He's one of my favorite players in the league right now. But when he first came in, he just seemed bratty. He was, a broken stick anytime the play kind of went against him. Like he got the moniker Sid the Kid, and that wasn't all just because he was young. It's because he had that, that tantrum aspect to how he played. Celebrini doesn't. Like Celebrini just goes out there, has fun, and just seems to want to like score goals and fucking hug his buddies.
Well, let's talk about having fun, because right now, Colin, you and I have a little bet going, and the Sharks are outside of that top 5. Now, what may encourage people, a lot of games, and they have games in hand as well. I will point that out. And also, if you want to be encouraged by something their goal differential is, I think third from the bottom. But Celebrini and some of the other guys are willing this team to move forward. So the Sharks overall in the league, we don't really care about the Pacific right now. If something else happens later, maybe we'll start looking at that. But right now they're 27th out of 32. Again, they have played 33 games. I think that the team that's most of the teams behind them have played 31 or below. Anaheim's going to fix everything. They traded Cam Fowler, and they're at 29 games played. Sharks are 11, 17, and 5. They have 27 points. Right below them are the Ducks, Sabres, and Canadians, who are all within a stone's throw. And then above them are the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets, who are also in a stone's throw. But the Sharks, again, have 3 games in hand over most of those teams. So plenty of hockey still to be played. Speaking of hockey still to be played, the Sharks this week take on the Winnipeg Jets at home, and then they get to see Mackenzie Blackwood on the 19th on Thursday as the Avs come into town, and then they go off and they play the Edmonton Oilers away. So where the Sharks are right now, right where we hoped they would be, which is why I started this podcast saying that it's happy time, because the Sharks are doing what they're supposed to be doing right now, which is playing more competitively, developing players they need to develop for the most part, but still losing, but doing it in a fun, competitive fashion. I have never been more excited to watch the Sharks play and not care about the actual score, because the on-ice product is, to an extent, back, even if they're not a very good team. So lots to look forward to if you are a Sharks fan the next couple of seasons, and even going up into the trade deadline. I do think it will be a fun trade deadline. We're going to podcast before that. This is not the end of the podcast, obviously, but
there's no guarantee of that.
Well, yeah, also, yeah. So, but from weekly to, but I do think, for those of you who are fans of exciting hockey, you're going to be getting that. For those of you who are fans of transactions, I think you're going to be getting a lot of that, especially as we get into the end of the year. And I think this offseason is going to be real exciting, because we're going to, again, see that team really take shape in the next steps. So lots of fun to be had.
Do you know what's even better about this offseason?
Know what?
The retained salary on Burns expires.
Why they're out of salary help pretty quickly here.
Like we're gonna have so much fun money this offseason. It's insane.
Oh God, let's not use that fun money. We need to bank stuff for contracts coming up.
It's gonna be not gonna be pretty. Not gonna be pretty. Hey, and just before you thought I forgot, Ben, 3 stars of the week.
Well, okay. So I'm going to use my 3 stars of the week to highlight one particular play from the Utah game.
Okay.
So Celebrini, Kovalenko, Zetterlund, the power play goal. If you want to watch a clinic on, passing, but also movement prior to passing to get the lanes you want, go back and watch that goal, folks. Yep. So 1st star, Celebrini, 2nd star, Kovalenko, 3rd star, Zetterlund, boom. Watch that power play.
Yeah, so the way Zetterlund disengages from his check on that play is perfect.
And the pass is so Celebrini goes towards the the middle, right? Mm-hmm. Pulls his guy away. Yeah. Then passes into to Kovalenko, who just immediately fires it over to Zetterlund, and it's a thing of beauty.
Gently sauces it over the stick. Thank you very much. Like,
all right,
Kovalenko's doing some stuff that I'm hoping is real.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go a little different with mine. My 3rd star is Nico Sturm for being a shockingly good rapper, and probably the best rapper on the team. It was not at all what I expected. All the Swedes to have a little bit of an accent, not to be the smoothest there, but Nico, I was like,
have you visited Sweden now?
I would listen to Nico Sturm do an 80s style rap album like tomorrow. 2nd star, 2-way tie, and both people are involved in the same move. Greer for the Blackwood trade, and Blackwood for really playing his way out of San Jose, which is a feat in a positive way, which is a feat given what's been in front of him. And then my 1st star, it's Macklin Celebrini. I do like, and this was said not by me, that with part of the Blackwood trade, it became very clear that we're not allowed to have more than one Mac and more than one Smith. on the roster. But to have him be in, I was screaming throughout my entire house because the kids were watching something else, and I'm like, hat trick watch. Maybe Macklin's first hat trick, and he's so exciting, so electric, and he's really lifting this team. Colin, your 3 stars.
All right, there has to be a story before I give the 3rd star.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So I think this is before Ben's time as a fan, but I've never liked opposing team, especially like Anaheim or LA star players coming to the Sharks. Like Timo Solani came onto the Sharks. Fucking hated it. I was so happy to see the back of that dude. Hall of Fame player, amazing player, but fucking get him out of the Sharks jersey. Tyler Toffoli gets my 3rd star. That guy has completely bought me over, and he's a fucking king. Like he is from the worst of the worst, and I am completely sold on that guy. Like he is the perfect veteran to come in and help the youth. And I had, and I mean, maybe this is points to Greer, but like I had no idea how good this guy would be for our younger team, for our younger players, for our team in general. And just, I love watching that guy play. I just, fuck you, Toffoli. You're great as a Shark.
He's the right player for the role that
Toffoli
they
and Wenberg, man.
Yeah.
The free agency activity this year, both big thumbs up.
Yeah,
and that's not a thing we've typically been able to say in Sharks free agency.
True. Like it's been shocking to me. Eklund's getting my 2nd star because that, like, we're raving over Celebrini's full defensive, offensive, everywhere on the ice play. Eklund's in there too, and sure, he's not as great as Celebrini. Not many people are. But he's there, and all the complaints we had on Eklund when he got his first look, like, I'm not seeing them anymore. I'd like to see the guy shoot more, but that's kind of it. And like, he seems to be exactly who we want as like a 2C, as like that second line carrier, though he's playing wing.
Okay. Can I interject a proposal?
Yeah.
Tyler Toffoli, Eklund, and Celebrini on the same line, so they can be the 70s line. 70s line, because Toffoli was on the original that 70s line.
Yeah.
Carter and him.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I hate to admit that when I'm doing my franchise team, that's exactly what I do. And I mean, 1st star has to be Mac. Like, come on. Like,
yeah,
the kid is magical. The kid, he starts playing and Kunin starts scoring goals, and like, not greasy, nasty, oh, it bounced off his ass and went in, but like, oh my God, this person can shoot all of a sudden type goals.
Well,
like,
I thought you were going to say not ironically.
Kunin's that one goal was, oops, I shot it right into the dude, and I got it back, and I'm going to shoot it, and the goalie has no idea where it is. So I don't know how much credit.
Ball return.
Yeah, like,
God,
okay, he isn't suddenly like shining, put him on the first line, we have no problems. I'm just saying he went from being, oh my God, I could be an NHL player if this guy's an NHL player, to, oh, this guy's an NHL player. And I swear, it's like they just walk by Celebrini and just pat his head, get a little bit of the magic, go out and play. Like, it's nuts. And
he's still not great, guys.
No, I'm not making that argument. I'm not giving him a star. It's still Celebrini.
He's roughly where he was in 22-23 when he got hurt, which is,
but it
around
looks so
30
much
games.
better now. I'm just saying, the Celebrini star puts, shines to everybody. So yeah, like, and let's face it, as we said, if Celebrini wasn't on this team, they would not be nearly as entertaining to watch right now, I think. And I think it's because he just has that elevation. So, yeah.
All right. Well, guys, that concludes this San Jose Sharks podcast. you can check us out on the web at circlingthecup.com. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/circlingthecup. You can check us out on the Blue Skies and the Twitters. You just want to do that now, Ben? I don't even know where they are.
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean it's at Circling the Cup on Twitter, and it's BenCTC or BenCTC.bluesky.whatever.
I love that.
Blue
I love that CTC has become part of your permanent personality. And of course,
Well, I
go.
was gonna say I have other accounts that are not, but
Oh, do you? Uh-oh.
I do.
Great.
He's a scoundrel. You know?
Now you
I
might
got to
be
troll somehow.
You might be
right?
a
I'm
bot
not gonna-
as far as
I'm not going to do
concerned.
that on Maine. Come on.
You can subscribe to this podcast. You can rate it 5 stars on Apple's podcast app. And of course, well, Android people, there's always Spotify for you. I
Hey.
guess. Figure it out. What were you
We
going to say?
will.
We will.
I'm-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. I got it. That's fine. All right. I just learned something new about
You.
Colin.
Yeah, maybe
Ooh.
we need to talk about who's on this podcast.
Yeah, I
when
think
we're
we need
done here,
to
Alex.
moving forward. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be elitist Apple people, I suppose. Anyway, guys, say
Going
bye-bye.
to be.
Wait, what? Do what
Bob.
now?
Say bye-bye.
Do who? What?
Say bye-bye.
Colin?
The league should just give us Victor Eklund next draft. Like,
Yes.
should just bypass and
Oh
just
my
give him
God.
to us.
Eklund Bros forever. Let's
Yeah,
go.
come on.
Bye-bye. All right. I take my kid to get a haircut. That was fun.
All right. It was fun.
Yeah. Talk to you guys soon.
See you
All
guys.
right.